Hi, boys and girls. I'm going to show you where you can find your assignment for 1203 in math called Plot Twists. I'm going to start by going to your math course, and we're looking at lesson 1203. So you're going to scroll down to module 12, 1203, Plot Twists. This is a 7-page lesson. Make sure you go through it's 8-page lesson. Make sure you go through all 8 pages. Focusing on the examples that they give you, focusing on the questions that it's asking, because all those different things are going to help you with your worksheet assignment. Your worksheet assignment is on the last page, page 8. You can click on Plot Twists. It's a 1-page worksheet assignment, and you're going to be completing a data set on the line plot and then answering some questions based on that data. So with all of these problems, boys and girls, you need to show your work. I can't stress that enough. I cannot give you full credit if you just provide the answers. You have to show your work and show your the math that you're using to solve these questions. So number 1, use the data set provided to create a line plot. So you're going to use this data that's within this box. It's titled Distance of Ski Trails in Miles. You're going to create a line plot using this data, and then you're going to answer questions 2 through 6 using this data. So I'm going to screenshot this, and we can go over some of it. We'll start with 1, 2, and 3. And then we'll look at the rest of the questions. So number 1, as I said, you're using your data here to create your line plot. I'm going to get yours started. I'm not going to do the whole thing. But the first thing you're going to want to do is look at your smallest number. We're dealing with mixed numbers here, so a whole number with a fraction. So I like to look at the whole numbers first, and I see that there's a 1, where all the other numbers start with a 2 or a 3. So we know that 1 3/8 is going to be our least. So we're going to put that on our first line. All right, 1 3/8. And then we can look for our largest. We're working with the rest of them are 2s and 3s. So we can look at our 3s. And it looks like our largest is 3 1/8. So we can plug that in. And it looks like with a lot of these, we're dealing with 4ths and 8ths. So we might want to take all of the 4ths and find equivalent fractions to 8ths. So my largest, as we said, actually 3 1/4 is going to be the largest, because 3 1/8 is smaller than 3 1/4. So 3 1/4 is actually 3 2/8. So you're going to have to probably find equivalent fractions for some of these. So 3 2/8. And as I said, that's equivalent to 3 1/4. So those two are equivalent, meaning equal. And so what I would do is I would just go up by 1/8. So 1 3/8, this next line would be 1 4/8. And you would just go up by 8ths. 1 5/8. And so on. I'm not going to do the whole thing out. I want you to go ahead and fill the rest of the chart out, and then you're going to go and put your data in. So 1 3/8 we know comes out once. 1 3/4, which is equal to, 3 1/4 which is equal to 3 2/8. We know that comes in once. So I've done 2 for you. And I could do even the 3 1/8, because that's going to come right before 3 2/8. And let's see here, there's 1, 2, 3. So I'm getting some of the data for you filled in. Okay, so you're going to go through and complete the rest of this line plot by inputting the data. And then you're going to answer the questions 2 through 5. And I'm not going to solve these for you. I will talk you through them, but your job is going to be to go and answer the questions. So number 2, what is the total number of ski trails? For that one, for number 2, it's simple. These are the different ski trails. How many data points are there? You're going to count those up. That would be number 2. Number 3, what is the difference in length between the longest ski trail and the shortest ski trail? Well, with this one, we know the longest, I already have that labeled on the data set, the longest and the shortest, and we're looking for the difference being subtraction. So we know the longest is 3 2/8. And we're subtracting it from the least, which is 1 3/8. Okay, now this is subtracting mixed numbers. If you don't remember how to do this, you need to make sure you go back to those lessons in Buzz. You're going to start with the fractions. 2/8 minus 3/8, you can't do that. So remember, you're going to need to borrow from this 3. The 3 changes to a 2. And you're bringing over 1. You're bringing over 1 whole. You're borrowing 1 whole. And 1 whole in this case would be 8/8 because that's what our denominator is. So now we're looking at 2 wholes plus 8/8, which is the borrowed 1 whole from the 3, plus 2/8. So then we're left with 2, and 8 plus 2 is 10. 2 10/8. Now we can subtract 1 3/8. So you would subtract the fractions and then you'd subtract that whole number. So that's the start for number 3 for you. You're going to have to solve that. Okay, and then let's look at 4 and 5. And 6. I apologize. There's 6 questions here. So we'll talk through those 3. Oops, let me redo that. That number got cut off. There we go. All right. So the next part is, what is the total length of all the ski trails that are 2 7/8 miles long? So if we go back to the worksheet, we're looking at 2 7/8. So how many 2 7/8 are there? Let's see here. There's no 2 7/8 in this column. There's 1 2 7/8. There's another, and there's a third. So we're doing 2 7/8 plus 2 7/8 plus 2 7/8. There are 3 2 7/8 data points. And the question is, what is the total length of all the ski trails that are 2 7/8? So you're doing 2 7/8 plus 2 7/8 plus 2 7/8, because there's 3 of them. You're adding them 3 times. Or what you could do, because it's repetitive addition or repeated addition, is 3 times 2 7/8. And here you would multiply the 3 times the 2, and then the 3 times the 7/8, and then add the 2 answers together. Or you can add 2 plus 2 plus 2, and then 7/8 plus 7/8 plus 7/8, and add those 2 answers together. Okay, so there's 2 ways to solve number 4. Number 5, what is the sum of the lengths of the shortest and longest ski trails? So again, we're looking at the shortest and the longest. We said the longest was 3 1/4, which is actually equal to 3 2/8. And the shortest was 1 3/8. And so we're finding the sum. For number 2, we are finding the difference. Here we're finding the sum, which is addition. And so we were adding 3 1/4, which was actually 3 2/8. That's the longest. And then our shortest was 1 3/8. So that's what you're adding to get the total of the longest and the shortest. And then number 6, Sam says the longest ski trail is more than 3 times the length of the shortest ski trail. Eli says it's less than 3 times the length. Who is correct? So for this one's a little tricky. This one you're going to have to do a couple steps here. You need to look at the shortest ski trail. We know the shortest ski trail is 1 3/8, okay? And Sam says it is 3 times the length. So he's saying the longest ski trail is 3 times the length as the shortest. We know the shortest is 1 3/8, and he's saying it's 3 times as big. So we're going to have to multiply 1 3/8 times 3. You're going to get that answer. When you multiply, you're going to do 3 times 1 and then 3 times 3/8 and then add that together. Whatever you get as that answer, you need to see, is it bigger or smaller than the longest ski trail? And the longest ski trail we said was 3 2/8. So this answer, is it more than 3 2/8, or is it less than 3 2/8? If it's more, if this answer right here is more than 3 2/8, then Sam is going to be correct. If this answer right here, when you solve it, is less than 3 2/8, then Eli is correct. So you're going to figure out who is correct and explain. And you can just explain by showing your math if that's the case, okay? So I've walked you through how to do questions 1 through 6. Number 1, you're filling out your data set, which I had started for you. And then 2 through 6, I've started each of the problems. You're going to either need to add or subtract depending on what the problem is asking you to do. Okay, when you're done with the worksheet, you're going to go to the next activity arrow. You'll click on that blue plus button and submit your work.